the Rakdos Moonshadow shell, but we're playing Shadow and Abigail. Abigail is a card that we really need to be playtesting. A lot of people were really hyped for this card coming into it, and I'll say that I've seen it in action now a couple times, and I think it's actually looking pretty good. I think it's actually looking pretty good, largely because Moonshadow is getting really big really quickly, and Abigail is also good to be on a Moonshadow. So it's not that this card is only good with Death Shadow and sometimes against like a construct token. I guess let me read the card. It's a black 1/1 flying first strike lifelink. When it enters, up to one other target creature loses all abilities, and you put a flying counter, a first strike counter, and a lifelink counter on that creature. So if you could put this on a Death Shadow, it's a 13/13 flying first strike lifelink. This goes really hard with, I mean, it's just hard by itself. But also, FOMO plus Moonshadow plus Abigail can be a lot of damage out of nowhere. And I really do think that so far, the Rakdos Moonshadow build has been the best. It is the most aggressive. Channeler is like kind of the best creature to pair with Goyf and Moonshadow. Unholy Heat is very strong. Fear of Missing Out is very, very strong. Phoenix is very, very strong. You're already going to be playing the Street Wraiths. And I have liked Death Shadow more than I expected to. I have liked Death Shadow more than I expected to in these shells, so I'm definitely interested in playing some of them here. Let's see. The sideboard is very close to the same. I think we're more in on Break the Ice than we were. This build is aggressive enough that I think we can try to race Titan sometimes without playing a bunch of Ashiok's, but also a bunch of Ashiok's kind of high on the curve anyways, so tough to play. Feels bad on a Goy for Deer. Yeah, Abigail's it's kind of like a dress down, right? Where you're like comboing it with Death Shadow a little bit and you have some other utility. But it is good that it combos with Moonshadow and Death Shadow instead of just comboing with Death Shadow like Dress Down does, is kind of how I'm thinking about it. Also kills constructs like Dress Down does. We're like 2 weeks into Lorewood now. How am I liking the set overall? For sure, the best set of 2026. I can confidently say the best set of 2026. I think it's really good overall. Straight to modern cards has been really, really good for years and years now. I just think they're doing a great job making cards that are interesting and modern that don't break standard. Okay, hold on. Maybe they are breaking standard. They're doing a good job making cards that are interesting and modern. I didn't watch any of the standard PT this time around, so I don't know how broken standard is, but I like it modern. It's what also for standard too. That's good. I just didn't watch any this weekend. I looked at the top 8. I didn't know anybody. How does Abigail work with Moonshadow? So the thing is, Moonshadow gets really big really quickly, and then giving it flying first strike lifelink is good. It's not there's not like a secret layer to it or anything like that. All right, let's take that Rumble. The Field of Ruin is kind of throwing me off here. What does Field of Ruin mean? I don't know. Yeah, let's just go and graveyard this. Try to get the Goyf as big as possible. Try to pressure the Spellbomb. 7 decks top 8. That's great. Yeah. Anti-meta won the PT. Good. It's great. I didn't watch this weekend, but I'm glad that it went well. Of course. Thought there was some timing actually. No, yeah. There's no like really weird or crazy interaction. It just kind of is. It's just good to Abigail and Moonshadow. All right, so they drew an Emperor of Bones. Let me go ahead and Unholy Heat the Emperor, and then we'll Fear of Missing Out the Phoenix, which will prompt the Spellbomb, but not before we get a pretty big hit in. Oh, sorry, I should have shocked because of the whole Death Shadow situation. Hopefully it doesn't come back to bite us too much. Draw a Moonshadow, kind of late for Moonshadow, but Moonshadow can still be good a lot of these games anyways. Now how do I feel about them sacking the Spellbomb for no I guess that's okay. They're pretty they're pretty flooded, so like the fact that they decided to gain 5 life instead of draw a card, I think I'm okay with it here. It's probably pretty close. Yeah, no challenge today. I did address this, but there's okay, then they go ahead and grow the Goyf, although notably this means the Field of Ruin won't grow the Moonshadow. Okay, so they're a Phoenix Fleet airship deck, probably. Just going to get in. So their hand is Shifting Woodland, Haywire Might, feel like I didn't click off the Verdant Catacombs. Hey, Doctor. Standard sets with couple straight to modern cards at a time have been standard sets with a couple straight to modern cards at a time instead of one big modern horizon set. Yeah, I know. It's like we reflected a lot on this, obviously, but I think MH2 worked pretty well because the whole format was really broken, and then MH3 broke the format, and so did MH. Well, you can't give all the blame to MH1 because that whole standard set was awful. Set era was awful. But I do hope that we just don't go back to Modern Horizons anytime soon, if ever. I feel like um the way that the Wizards has found a good job balancing the standard sets for modern has been really good, especially with so many standard sets too. It's like if we're gonna get 6 standard sets a year and there's like 10 15 interesting cards in each of them, maybe on average, I think it's a pretty good ratio. Okay, so my opponent is probably playing Urza Saga in their deck with the Haywire Might. They're playing Field of Ruin, so maybe they're like Golgari. Maybe they're like Golgari Ice Till Explorer mid range. And how do we explain the kites, the greedy freebooter? So this is probably Phyrexian Tower plus Phoenix Fleet Airship. Could they be? Could they be playing Soul Trader? They're also playing Emperor of Bones, which can be a Soul Trader card, but isn't a Soul Trader all the time. Could also just be a mid-range card. They have the main deck Nihil Spellbomb again. That's the Urza Saga. Gonna be kind of a weird one to sideboard against. Maybe I just don't have anything for any of this stuff anyways. Like, we could play a Meltdown or two. I think I want the first copy of Meltdown. Yeah, only 3 Blood Crypts. I just would rather play the 10th fetch land instead of the 4th Blood Crypt. Yeah, they got the Nihil Spellbomb, so I think I'll trim a Phoenix. Maybe trimming a Goyf is better. I think I saw an article where Rosewater there weren't any plans to make more Horizon sets. I think that's good. I think, maybe you could do one again someday, but I think right now it doesn't really make sense to have it in the works. Pyroclasm kills everything you saw. It's not very good against Emperor, and like to say that it kills Haywire Might and Emperor Bones, it's like they have one Haywire Might in their deck, and it's not very good against Emperor, right? No MDFC lands, not flexible enough. I mean, I wouldn't say that the problem with MDFC lands in this deck is they aren't flexible enough. I would say the problem is they are worse than fetch lands. A fetch land has you have control over how much life you lose instead of always being 3. It gets both of your colors. It triggers Moonshadow by putting a card in the graveyard, and it can get a surveil land. They're just better, They are better. So there's the Urza Saga. They're built differently. I wish that's one thing I don't like about modern deck construction is how you're just not that incentivized to not play fetch lands maybe that's not the best way to say that, but fetch lands are so good that it's hard to play other utility lands sometimes. For a few others, Modern Horizons 1 was what pushed me out of Modern. I quit Standard because I didn't want to constantly update decks, and then suddenly had to update the Jund deck. I quit and only play Commander now. Thanks for letting me vent. You're always welcome to vent here. But yeah, a lot of people have had this criticism. The whole Modern became a rotating format meme has been sort of beat to death. But we have Delirium now. I personally do like when formats change because otherwise we're just doing the same thing forever. But your take is very similar to a lot of people's. So he would have been able to attack for 12 flying life. Like, wow, they mulliganed, right? Let's double check that they mulliganed. Check their work. Yeah, they went to 6. They did keep a 0 lander. You could go to 5. I don't know. You have an Urza Saga. I get it, but you have 3 Urza Sagas. I think I still would probably mulligan that one. Like, reasonable cards to include, but nothing that feels super mandatory. Alright, so hope we can do the Abigail Death Shadow thing, our own version of Leyline Scion. I'm going to Thoughtseize turn 1 to try to avoid Scion of Draco. Looks at the camera. So I guess I take Doorkeeper Thrall, since that can stop my Abigail from getting after my shadow, since that's my current plan. Yeah, DRC plus Moonshadow's been phenomenally good. Uro can be unbanned, in my opinion, but won't. I mean, it definitely shouldn't. I don't think it should be. Or I think Uro would be better than Flage, and I know it's a boring conversation to have in the first place, but like turn 1 Utopia Sprawl, turn 2 Uro, consign the Uro trigger. It's like, I don't know why you'd want to add that to the format. Rumble plus Uro seems really annoying. Alright, save me from Leyline Scion. You've got 4/4 flying first strike lifelinkers. I've got a 13/13. Hopefully they don't have Tragic Slip. Someone got 5/0 with Ritual Goblins, so you've couple shifted. Yeah, maybe that's the better way to build it. I like the Grim Gully build we played. If you want to link it, I'd love to take a look at how they fit that in there. Fair enough. I forgot about Consign. I love being heard. I feel very seen. Okay, they keep a card on top. Hopefully it's not a binding. It's a dashed Ragavan. I do have first strike on my Abigail, so, but they have trample. So I could block with this channeler for the sole purpose of denying the Ragavan hit. Seems fine. Probably though better to cast the Cling, at least get the Surveil. The channeler's just not going to be good into the Devil Scion. And then we can save our Surveil lands for later now. Sure. Moonshadow probably just goes to the yard. We don't have too many good hits, but like we want like fear of missing out mostly. So they're at 20, I'm at 13. They've got an unknown card in their hand. Oh no, my channeler is now delirious. I guess I can make it undelirious with the Cling. Let me cycle this Wraith first. We draw a Nethergoyf. Yeah, I think we might as well just Cling. It's pretty bad to obviously let them, yeah, so let's get all the lands out of there, and then the sorcery. It's kind of weird to like want to make the stuff as small as possible with the Goyf in hand. Okay, so maybe the channeler can go off with the Moonshadow. We'll see. Very weird game, very cool game. Definitely need them to flood out a little bit. Yeah, let me take a look at the Goblins deck. Only one grub is interesting. I don't know that I kind of didn't like having this many of these lands with Birthing Ritual. I'm only playing 3 Cavern in my build at the moment. Because I do think you need to play 4 Trawlers. The Orvar is almost definitely not right. There's just not that many Archons in the format. I think it seems pretty wrong. Overall looks pretty good though. I kind of feel like I would rather play all grubs over matrons. Kind of minor though. So I drew another Goyf. Alright, so let me go ahead and attack for 13. And then get to play triple black 1-drop, and then Blood Crypt tapped. I don't think... I'm not going to try to think about managing my life total with a 13/13 lifelink and 2 4/4 flyers over there. So we just need to fade a binding for one more turn, hopefully, and then the Death Shadow can try to beat Leyline double or Scion double Leyline. Or wait, double Scion, single Leyline. Thanks again, Perspiring Mike, for the 57 months. Alright, so I'm at 19, they're at 9. I guess they can block with 1 Scion. They have a Flage. Flage has lifelink here, so they actually get to gain 6 life. They're gonna kill my Channeler? They target my Moonshadow instead of the Channeler. I draw a Fear of Missing Out. Don't have Delirium, though. Alright, so I need to hold up the Cling for the Flage. But we'll just go ahead and attack just here. They don't have enough cards in the graveyard for Flage right now, so so I'll wait to respond to a fetch land. This would be a very cool game to win. Alright, so they play Godless Shrine tapped. They could have attacked first to play it untapped if they wanted to. So I'm at 24, they're at 10. Now I think I'd like to Surveil, since Delirium it would be so valuable to find with the fear of missing out on the Shadow here. I draw another copy of Abigail. Don't think there's really anything I can do with that. Let's just graveyard it. Then I draw another Channeler. So I'm gonna play this Channeler, and then let's see if we can. Let's see if we can't get Delirium here. Although maybe I'm playing in the stub a little bit too much. So I've got 8 cards in my yard. I will end up with 3 afterwards. Oh, man, it's so... Yeah, I mean, the Flage isn't even that good, even if they have the stub, which there's a good chance they do, but if I hit Delirium, we're still good. Leave Street Wraith because of Phoenix, I guess. Remember, the Cling will go back to the yard. 2 mana to replicate a consign on the Dragon Rage's Channeler triggers. Very cool. Alright, so my Goyfs are 3/4s. If I attack with everything, my opponent can go block, block, and survive. So I think we just have to attack with the Shadow. And they'll block with one of their 2 Scions, I would imagine. And so we don't have Trample, so they go to 14. I'm at 39. Crazy game. They got 2 cards in their hand, and they concede. Although they did actually have another... Maybe an Alpha Strike would have done it that turn. I hadn't counted. Okay, so we want to bring in a couple Sheoldred's Edicts. And then I think we want to play both of these just in all the Flage matchups. Abigail was really, really good that game. Sideboarding gets a little bit weird, of course. I think I'm trimming Bauble 4, Shadow 4, Wraith 4. And the Phoenixes are I think the Phoenix is probably just wrong. The thing is, we're on the draw. I don't know how aggro we want to be. Yeah, it's probably just wrong. Unfortunately, the whole deck's too good. Oh, sorry, I meant to cut a Shadow. Did I cut something else on accident? I meant to cut a... Sorry, not a Shadow. A Bauble, a Thoughtseize, a Wraith. Just trim one of each. Maybe we could trim a Channeler. They're kind of maybe too small. Maybe Channeler is just like the weak link, since they're so bad against Leyline Scion. But they also dig us for the Sheoldred's Edicts. I'm gonna try this. Maybe let's just keep in the 4th Thoughtseize too to go after the Scions. Just cut the Channelers for the Edicts, the Spellbomb, and the Trespasser. I think that's a fine way to play. I've done more testing with Dawnhand Dissident. Not really. I've thought a little bit about rebuilding the deck and how that might look, and I still want to work on it, but there's just like a lot to get to, and I end up working on other stuff. We have like 5.5 decks in the queue at the moment, and that's going to take us a minimum 2 days, probably at least 3 to just get through this list, and then we've got more after that. I think we can... This is obviously the problem with playing so many Baubles and Street Wraiths, is we're a grindy matchup, it's hard to mulligan. This hand could just totally flop. Like drawing a mountain here is a disaster. And then like if we just find another land off of either of these cantrips, it's a disaster. So I guess I'm just gonna Surveil. It is nice how much manipulation over your library you have access to in Modern these days. Disaster. I mean, this is the problem with Bauble Street Wraith to some extent. Like if the Bauble was a land in opening hand, we have an easy mulligan. I think that's just kind of the price you pay. That's just the price I pay. So let's just go play this Verdant Catacombs and pass. If my opponent has a Bolt or a Flage, we could potentially save the Moonshadow if we Surveil a permanent into the yard. And then we'll wait to see if they flage. Okay, so now we need to surveil a permanent in the yard, but if we do, then we get to save the Moonshadow from the flage. I guess if we miss, we could theoretically Street Wraith into a second Street Wraith. Nice. And also getting a land out of the deck is nice too. Although we only have one Blood Crypt left. Moonshadow's so good! So it may be a little bit disappointing that we're not going to be able to bestow the Phoenix this turn, since we only have the Wraith as far as cards in the yard that have mana value. Also, do I Abigail the Moonshadow? If I do so, my Death Shadows are like offline the whole game. I think I'm supposed to. I think that's, you know, that's the deck. Let's test it. Another land is really tough. But hopefully they just don't have a binding. That's a binding? 18 lands in this deck, by the way. I think I'm discarding the Phoenix just so I can have Delirium. I only have one more fetchable in the deck. And it's a basic swamp, so I can't bestow onto the Moonshadow here. Not that I would necessarily want to. Oh, I couldn't anyway. I haven't heated yet. So they play an Arena of Glory. Thankfully, my opponent's draw is also pretty bad. We only have 6 lands in the deck left, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Looks like we have a little bit more than that. Oh, I guess, I'm sorry, when we fetch, we won't. Togo, thanks for the raid. Hope you had a good stream. Welcome, everybody. We're in our second match with Rakdos Moonshadow. 8 Moonshadow. So when I bestow, I'm gonna lose Delirium. When I heat the Scion, they're gonna have 3 cards in the yard. Yeah, I think I leave them with the binding since the Scion's just a bit more of a problemo. I think I want to put this on the Abigail so I have a higher density of threats, although maybe that's wrong. I think just turning everything into like a reasonable threat makes sense to me. I have more instants than I have sorceries. So if they draw fetch land and can escape the flage, that's the worst case. The hand is binding mystery card right now. Binding not going to the graveyard is really nice for us. Didn't so. Can I ever hit anything off this Thoughtseize? I guess I could hit a... No, they have green mana. I could hit like a Stubborn Denial, but the thing is, I don't even want to hit anything if I do because of the flage, right? Might target the Phoenix. Thoughtseize myself. I already have Delirium because I had more instants than my deck than sorceries. So Thoughtseize self doesn't do anything. I can't take the swamp to grow the Moonshadow. When it's down to 3. Yeah, like the only card I could take is Stub, right? I could maybe take a Leyline. The Guild Pact, that would just be bad. Is there any other card? No. So they found the fetch land to haste the flage. So gone from... I don't know, it is what it is. Yeah, we get Thoughtseize later for Stub, exactly. So probably going to game 3, unless we find Sheoldred's Edict, I guess. Why break the ice over Charm on the side? Feels like Charmo is better for aggro deck. Sorry if this is answered. We have more black sources than red sources. We also have it. We're an 18 land deck, and a lot of times Charmo is a 3 mana play. And I was like, we do have Delirium now for Unholy Heat for whatever that's worth. But yeah, Charmo's a 3 mana play a lot of the time, and we're not as good at hitting our 3rd land on turn 3. Not Although that's not exactly what this game looks like. Shadow is going to be online, I guess, this turn if we Thoughtseize. Not much reason to Thoughtseize this turn, though. Technically alive. Can go to 1. We're a Shadow deck. Consign. So go to 1, and then if we draw Unholy Heat or Sheoldred's Edict, and then they draw nothing, we have got a chance. Otherwise, we get game 3 on the play. I think the sideboard plan's fine. We just got very flooded. Alright, game. Maybe Thoughtseizing for Invoke is a little bit better, I guess. Alright, game 3 on the play. Let's go. Shadow and Phoenix wins if you have the evidence. I don't think I had the evidence. Maybe I did. Wait, there I boarded a Meltdown. I have no idea how that slid in there. I think it was supposed to be over the Wraith. Okay, well. Hopefully I don't draw the Meltdown. Sorry about that, chat. Didn't know how we missed that. I think I have to discard the Phoenix, or put back the Phoenix. We can put back the Spellbomb, actually. I want to be able to discard the Phoenix to the FOMO. Yeah, Meltdown X equals 12. When you decide to put Sheoldred's Edict for Sudden Edict, I'm all Sheoldred's Edict now. It used to be Sudden Edict was better because they could get around Stub in this matchup, but it's so often that you need the non-token creature mode against Kappa Cannoneer that it's just, as long as Kappa Cannoneer is in the format, I'm going to be picking Sheoldred's Edict. Have I broke Moonshadow yet? I mean, Moonshadow being a 1-mana creature that gets 1-for-1 really easily, it kind of inherently can't be broken, in my opinion, but it is pretty good. It is pretty good. I think I'm going to lead on the Moonshadow. It is pretty good. I think that the Rakdos Shell is the best for it so far. They do have the bolts. And we just had the second Moonshadow the whole time. Yeah, I don't know if I'm boarding an Edict against Boros, but that does definitely make it a better main deck card. Literally, why is this in here? Maybe it's a Meltdown situation. So they fetch main phase, getting a Triumph. They already have Binding or Leyline in play, so probably not going to read too much into that. Let's go ahead and FOMO discard a Phoenix. We'd love to draw a fetch land to grow the Moonshadow and play the Death Shadow. Instead, we draw an Unholy Heat. We do have Delirium for the fear of missing out and the Unholy Heat. I guess the Ashok getting rid of the Phoenix this turn will be okay. And also gets me off Delirium for the Heat. Still not a particularly good turn. They might imagine they mill themselves and hit Flage here. Maybe this card's just great. They do mill themselves. They mill over a Scion and 2 bolts. So we're gonna take the Binding, cast the Shadow. So I attack them for 5 down to 10, and I have 7 points of power in play. I think I just can't let them hit Flage off the Ashiok. So I don't know. 3 mana, gain 5 life, exile graveyard. Was that good? I don't know. They main phase get a tap Temple Garden. And then a tap Steam Vents, which is interesting. I guess we'll play this Fear of Missing Out. And my opponent is now down to 4 life points. Even if they top deck a Scion, anything that grows the Moonshadow kills them because of the Menace. No, you didn't draw Wrath the Skies. You did not top deck Wrath the Skies, dude. Come on, man. Brutal. Well, no easy games. So them cracking the fetch is so wrong because I could just draw my own fetch land and surveil to win. They have a Teferi. Big draw step. I did draw the fetch land. I guess I have a one outer Detective's Phoenix here. Seems fine to just look for it. We're gonna surveil a threat to the top. Oh. That doesn't do anything, does it? A Sheoldred's Edict. So maybe I would keep this on top if they hadn't just played this Doorkeeper Thrall, but it seems like Sheoldred's Edict, they'll just sack their useless Doorkeeper Thrall, right? But not hitting a permanent's tough because now I don't have lethal. They play an Arid Mesa, they plus the Teferi, they should attack, probably. And we win the game. Anyways, let's go. Very close game. That top deck Wrath Disguise was rough. But we are 1-0, or 2-0. I forgot that round one. That round one was crazy. My opponent kept like a 6-land hand because they had Urza Saga as a Golgari deck and did nothing and lost. Does it Shadows hit Planeswalkers? It does hit Planeswalkers. Why is that relevant? Teferi's just not doing anything right now. It doesn't grow the Moonshadow, if that's what you're thinking. Only when cards hit your own graveyard does Moonshadow grow. So on the draw for round 3, we have a 1-land Moonshadow Street Wraith Death Shadow hand. This hand's really good if we hit a land in the top 3 cards. What other creatures Abigail go with? It's good with Moonshadow, just like just turning into a 6/6 or 7/7 flying first strike lifelink's good. Good enough at least. Okay, so sample size is going to be 3, and we should have 17 successes. So we're 70% to hit land 2. Game isn't over if we miss, and that's not even counting hitting other Street Wraiths and hitting other Baubles. We are on the draw against Tron. We do hit the land, though. Do you have a bunch of Break the Ice on the board? Shadowstorm versus Meltdown. We're an 18-land deck. We can't play Shadowstorm. Meltdown plus Sheoldred's Edict helps against Kappa Cannoneer. If you play more mana, I tend to prefer Shadowstorm. So we can go Channeler Thoughtseize, or we can go Death Shadow Thoughtseize. I think I want to go for the Channeler. Try to surveil some more stuff in the yard. I don't think the Death Shadow being a 1/1 is that exciting here, unless we have exactly like Abigail on top. Put this in the graveyard. My opponent has nothing. Kind of. I guess I just take this, which can be their green mana. So there's Tron, and they top deck something. They top deck an Ugin. Good morning, Spikelings. We do have the Unholy Heat. So, let's take our draw step. We drew Cling to Dust. So we can actually kill the Ugin. But just barely is 9 damage enough for this turn 3 Planeswalker. So their hand is Myco Spawn, a bunch of lands, and some mystery cards. They've got another Ugin. Okay, good thing Magic is a best 2 out of 3 match. I don't the same. Phoenix? I mean, my opponent they just could still have nothing but lands, and that can't cast Myco Spawn, and we can maybe still win this game, but it's looking not that likely. All right, I'll concede to that. Alright, so we're down a game against Tron. We do have the full playset of Break the Ice in the sideboard. Tron is really, it has really been feeling like the tough matchup. I'm kind of thinking I just cut the heats. And just be as aggressive as possible. But maybe I should play like one heat, or maybe heats are better than Cling. Heat killing Karn, killing... although I don't know if the I think Mycospawn might mean no Glaring Fleshraker and Thought-Knot Seer. I think I'm going to actually think that and just do this. And then we could also play Meltdown for... Yeah, I guess we should play probably Meltdown over Clings so we can deal with Bridge and or Chalice. Yeah. Yeah, this looks good enough. If this was a Blood Crypt, we would keep. Is Thoughtseize still good here? Yes, Thoughtseizes is good against Tron, or at least I'm not going to side it out. Edict for the Planeswalker. That's not really how you win against Ugin. As you saw this game, it's like you're just 3-for-1ing yourself really hard. You're mostly trying to Thoughtseize or Break the Ice or kill them before it comes down, right? Not a very good Mold-a-5, unfortunately for us. Do we keep this in Hope? What would our 7 or 5 cards be? We put back a Channeler and a Phoenix, I guess. This could be okay if we draw a bunch of enablers off the top. I think we have some better 4-card hands. This does look better. So is this my 4-card hands? Probably has to be. Let me know if you're keeping that 5 or if you're going to this 4-card, or, you know, a random 4-card hand. Alright, so they say no to 2 Talismans and Ulamog. They have an Eldrazi Temple, and they have a Dismember. I'd mold that 5 in a heartbeat. All due respect, what the hell are you going to 4? Well, I love the conversation here. I was right go to 4. I'm keeping the 5 because I play suboptimally. I love that we have literally both sides and a middle and a middle of the pack response there. Okay, so they did have Thought-Knot Seer, which I didn't necessarily expect. I love to just get the complete range. I think, you know, I think it was kind of close. Either way, it was going to be a very tough game to win. I think that the way we played, I just did think we had enough better for us to go to 5, and that maybe just should be enough for us. Well, let's keep the Break the Ice. Maybe this will give us Delirium and slow them down. Maybe they'll can have a K command. I feel like you have to try to race them. Need to aggressively mull. Valid. Yeah, that's kind of my attitude as well. Wait, they don't have another land, and we have Break the Ice on top? All right, we really need to hit Delirium here, but this is like maybe just going to steal the game on the Mold-a-4. Can I find another Break the Ice? So this is not Delirium. Not Delirium. Dude, they top deck the land. I guess I attack, actually. I should have attacked last turn. But this just... Oh, no! No! I didn't realize I don't know why. I just thought I didn't have a creature in the yard. Sorry, chat. Fuck, I don't know why I just thought I didn't have a creature in the yard. I just wanted it so badly to work. Well, maybe it just won't matter anymore now. Adarox at 23 months, thank you, welcome back. They have an Urza's Tower. We need to top deck another Break the Ice. Fuck. The Chalice on one? Okay, interesting to go for Chalice on one instead of cracking the map. I guess they can crack the map for Tron next turn. Yeah, a case of the Mondays. Ooh, Meltdown would have also been really nice to kill this. Tough. Not that the punt really cost us anything, but I did just for some reason trick myself into thinking I got Delirium on the attack. Classic Rakdos Shadow hand. We're a Luris reveal away from playing MH2 Modern. We have played Grix, or we played. I don't think we played Stub in Grixis. We played Dimir with Stub. I've really not been liking Psychic Frog very much in the Moonshadow deck, surprisingly. Although there probably is a version of Moonshadow that's more of just a counter spell deck. Maybe we need to try that. Okay, I'm gonna put that down too. There's just like we just have to play all of them. But like more of like a traditional blue black frog, like playing actual counter spell and just playing like a slower game overall. So probably up against Neoform here. Is Black Flare any good in this deck? No, you need to be sacking like Stitcher Supplier, like things that like to go to the graveyard. I'm gonna wait on the Street Wraith in case I draw Moonshadow because I'm locked in on Thoughtseizing here. My single Thoughtseize will of course contain the combo deck completely. So I think I like taking Neoform instead of the Summoner's Pact, right? Where if we take the Neoform, they need to either find land plus Eldritch Evolution, or they need to find another Neoform. Whereas if I take the Summoner's Pact, then they need to find a Rider or a Summoner's Pact, but they don't need to sometimes find the extra land, if that makes sense. And sometimes they'll still die to their own Summoner's Pact trigger when they go for Gristlebrand, although that doesn't happen super often. Maybe it'll happen more often if I deal them a bunch of damage with this Death Shadow. Less Neo effects than Riders. I thought it was 8 and 8. Maybe I'm wrong about that. So this is a 3/3. I think I need to actually just be a little bit more mana efficient here than being getting one more damage in. Maybe that's wrong too. I think it's fine. We can definitely get paid off. Evolution is not real effect in this instance in the third land. Well, I mean I went over this, but yes, we're just requiring that they draw the third land also, right? They do keep a card on top. Alright, so they pass the turn with Planar Genesis up. We get pretty punished by drawing the Abigail this turn. How often is Unholy Heat relevant? Never? Or it can't be never. I mean, they could play a Rider, or they could play Mandrills, maybe. Sir Carso with 8 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Yeah, rarely. That's true. The second heat would be more relevant. I think I'm gonna discard the Mire, just be able to heat plus Abigail next turn. I have lethal next turn. Is one copy of Susur Secundi. Is this really the name of a Magic card? You can't respond to the Rider. Well, I'm just saying, well, we took the Neoform, so they might just play the Rider as a blocker, right? That's what I'm saying. Oh yeah, we've talked about playing this card. Maybe it should be in the mono black build. I think that this card is good if you're a much slower Moonshadow deck than this is. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but I'm open to it. So they play Rider, they pitch Eldritch Evolution and Planar Genesis, and then they just also have Neoform. And then they Galta in Atraxa. Oh, but they Summoner's Pact, right? For Xenagos to combo kill. So we don't get to maybe sometimes win with Abigail here. Have I seen the new Gen Goblins list? Yeah, I saw the build that 5-0'd. I thought it looked so fine. We probably should get around to playing that build, I think. Alright, so we just have I don't know where the second Vexing Bauble. Where did it go? Down here for some reason. We just have these and then maybe the Sheoldred's Edicts. Plus like the fast clock. I think we will play the Edicts. Octopus with the 41 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Appreciate you. I like the Grim Gully build of goblins we had too. I liked how we were able to play more of the other slots. We didn't have to have Kiki Jiki in the deck, but I don't know, maybe like Birthing Ritual and the Kiki Jiki is also just good. Certainly a lot of ways to build goblins. I'm glad somebody did well with it. I do think that the main thing with goblins is Boros Energy going to continue to be a really, really dominant deck for a long time? Goblins probably doesn't have the most life. Although, I don't know. Also, Birthing Ritual plus the 1-mana Goblin has been kind of good against them. At least you have that like specific curve that's okay in the matchup. Without it, it's like still pretty tough. But it's winnable with like exactly Blood Tosser into Ritual. What about Quarry Steelcutter in the deck? It gives you more opportunities to Delirium with more artifacts. It does raise the curve. I think Fear of Missing Out is better than Steelcutter overall, and so I don't love raising the curve, but yeah, you could play it over the Abigail Death Shadow stuff. Well, one other thing I typically don't like about Quarry Steelcutter in Rakdos is that your steel cutters are always worse than anybody else playing steel cutter because you play less spells on your turn and you have less card draw, so your steel cutters just a lot of times sit and play doing nothing, and you don't trigger prowess as much. But it is still a good card, good threat, but it's just not quite the same card, right? Is there a way to get more Phoenix in the deck? Yeah, you would put one more and or two more, and then you'd have more Phoenix. The problem with playing more Phoenix is that Phoenix is almost only ever live if you play Street Wraith, or if you've drawn a Street Wraith, a Phoenix is live. If you haven't drawn a Street Wraith, a Phoenix is not live. Okay, we're gonna keep this on the play against Neoform. Thoughtseize is really important, of course. So the problem with playing more than two Phoenixes is that the second Phoenix you have to have had a second Street Wraith for it to be good. And so you just don't want to see two copies very early. And you also have Channeler to dig pretty deep for them. So like while I really do like Phoenix a lot, I think it's tough to include more copies. Is there a Jund mid-range list with Moonshadow? Ren and 6 could be able to have fetches remove a counter from Moon every turn. If you're playing Jund, it's probably mostly for Hapatra's Mark than anything else. They have the green source on the top of their library. They have two Neoforms, so we'll just take the Summoner's Pact, I guess. Interesting keep. Why I checked that Once Upon a Galaxy last week. Amazing game. Yeah, that game is really, really good. It's got like a bunch of new updates too. Don't love that they took so long to decide whether or not to play the this land tapped or untapped here. I feel like I don't know. How often do you choose not to hold up Veil of Summer unless you just don't know? Unless you know there's just not a second Thoughtseize in the hand. Feels like almost never is the answer, honestly. Unfortunately. Mark doesn't seem bad. Yeah, we've tested it. It's definitely been fine. Now, I guess I'm just going to hold this up. I don't know. Thought about Architects of Will. It's just so tough to just spend like 1 mana to cycle and just 1 mana to not impact the board. That's the issue, but it would be a way to get more Phoenixes in the deck. But tough to find those spots too. Would probably be moving away from the Death Shadow stuff, if that's the case. Seems less sus because you didn't take Veil, indicating you didn't have second season. I think that's fair. More sus with like the long upkeep stops, maybe. With like with literally no decision points. They got to put it tapped. Yeah, that's fair. Maybe that's the angle I'm missing because I didn't take the Veil. They get a snow-covered forest. So if they could just brick on another rider for this turn, then we get them to a point where Gristlebrand isn't looking very good, and my Edict will win the game. Why does upkeep stop indicate sniping? They didn't brick this turn. So that's do y'all like regularly experience long upkeep stops? Just like take 2 minutes on like every single turn when your opponent has no decision. Like, to me, that is indicating that they're taking extra time because they're watching the stream. or that could indicate that. But maybe that's just something that happens all the time. I'm kind of the opinion that this isn't something that I experienced very much until I started streaming. So they have another Galta in the. Oh wait, they pitched the Galta. I mean, I think we're still waiting on the Edict. Yeah, but we just needed them to avoid. We needed to avoid the Rider this turn. A lot of turns like that this league, where we just need to avoid a top deck for a turn. Classic Thoughtseize experience. Maybe I don't know. Maybe this was still enough though. See if we can find the second Sheoldred's Edict or Abigail. Like Orm's Chant, upkeep stop for sure is normal. Neobrain player is weird. Yeah, I mean, there's also just like how long the upkeep stop is too. But yeah, maybe they could be not ghosting. They could just be at work or something. Nizard, the 34 months. Thank you. Welcome back. Kind of close. Which one to keep, honestly, with me at 9. They do keep the Galta. So if I double block the Galta, they do 4 damage here, 4 damage here. I mean, I guess I could just triple block the Galta now. Yeah, I asked them about streamer mode over a year ago. They said they were working on it. How does Trample work with Death Shadow again? They grow after they receive 4. Well, they yeah. So you used to be able to over-assign damage to Death Shadow. I kind of think that did they change that rule? I like for some reason I'm having a memory of them changing. Like they changed the blocker rules. Can you no longer choose to over-assign damage? I think that you can still do so. You just assign damage as damage happens. You just don't order blockers anymore. I think it was the only rules change. How would streamer mode work? It would just like put a random username in all these places so your opponent wouldn't see the username and think you're there. Or know you're there. You can still oversign. Yeah, I think that does sound true. Okay, my draw doesn't give me lethal this turn. I'm very close to killing them. If I sin with everything, they block this. They go to 1 life, which is unfortunately not 0. What do you think about a shell with Abigail and Aether Vial? Well, Death Shadow sure is pretty bad with Aether Vial. Yeah, I don't know exactly how that would work, but I mean, this Abigail's 2 mana. I feel like giving it flash is kind of fun, but it also seems like just casting the dang thing is plenty good. Putting them below 7's worth attacking for Gristlebrand. I mean, I need to not die on the backswing. Their Gristlebrand's also already dead. Alright, crazy game to win. Just gonna keep the hand hider up for the match, I think. Not that, like, my hand is, like, something they need to worry about much in this matchup anyways. Yeah, we need the Meltdown. Why did they keep Galton play over Gristlebrand again? I think they thought with me being at such a low life total that like Gristlebrand wasn't a one-shot attack. The Galta was. I think that they thought that was enough, but in the words of Grammy winner Kendrick Lamar, it's not enough. What would have to happen for Consign to lose meta share? You know, sometimes I feel like a teacher where I've got smart students like you, Mac, who ask questions they already know the answer to. Less Tron, less Eldrazi, less Consign. You know that. You don't need me to tell you that, of course. Them graveyarding the Mandrels is really good for me because I have Vexing Bauble. That's a way for them to beat the Vexing Bauble. Bauble doesn't turn off Street Wraith cycle. You don't cast the Street Wraith when you cycle it. So see if they have a Beseju or Planar Genesis. Should have known. I guess I'm wondering if that's going to happen, or if I'll take an MH4 ban like Solitude or Riddler or Flage, all 3 to get it out of the mains. I mean, that could possibly happen, but there have definitely been metagames post MH3 where Tron slash Eldrazi are not that popular, and I don't really see much reason for that to not possibly happen again. So kind of an interesting point because I can either draw Thoughtseize off this FOMO, or I could possibly draw a fetch land to grow the Moonshadow some more. What I ended up drawing instead was Mishra's Bauble to go with my Channeler, which I'm going to play into my Vexing Bauble for the possibility of 2 extra counters on the Moonshadow here, which I do get. It's so cool that this, even if this is like getting countered and never hits the battlefield, it's the Moonshadows still grow. The Menace on the Moonshadows could also be really, really relevant if my opponent ends up going for Gristlebrand. I possibly could just attack through the Gristlebrand next turn. Putting them to 9 life also means that they can only activate a Gristlebrand 1 time. Of course, they also still need to deal with the Vexing Bauble, and but we are weak to like Xenagos, Ghalta. Do I feel like Consign is a problem from a design perspective? Doesn't seem to stop fun stuff from happening. So the problem with Consign to Memory, and it is a design problem in the sense that Wizards seems to have knowingly printed cards that are unbalanced and not tested very well and not that fun. The Eldrazi cards, I think Wizards could have concluded. I certainly would have concluded that a lot of the Eldrazi cards are too pushed, not that fun to play against, and probably not tested extensively enough. And so it seems like they just added Consign to Memory as like a safety valve card to be like, okay, it'll get handled with the sideboard, which I think is just bad design. I think it leads to exactly what it led to, which is metagames that feel very stuck. Very stuck. It's just constantly these two things dueling each other forever because the Eldrazi is unbalanced. There's one good answer to it. Break the Ice isn't that good anymore. It's like Charmal's not that good anymore. These are okay. They're not as good as Consign. And it just like intentionally designing things poorly or knowing things are kind of designed poorly and just trying to put a safety valve. I usually think is bad design. Yes. I guess I'll play a Shadow just to grow the Moonshadows, which is kind of funny. I don't know what they have to stop this, but we'll find out. Consign's necessary evil with Ugin's Lab and Keikoman existing. Yeah, the thing is, as far as like just commenting on is it bad design, it's bad design to be like, this is a necessary evil because of these other cards we're putting in the same set. You know, it's just all not good design, in my opinion. As someone who is now a game designer and spends a big portion of my day thinking about this stuff now. Let's get a 4-1 prediction going. Am I a game designer before you've published a game? Well, I'm not a game publisher, but I am designing one. Getting the 4-1 prediction going. I may never be a person with a published game. I think I'm gonna try this hand, even though the Abigail's kind of awkward. With double Street Wraith, we have the potential to turn to Abigail a Shadow. I've consulted on MTG design. Yeah, the thing is, the consulting isn't designing. It's just different. It's consulting. It's like you're not creating the cards, which is it's just a different skill set, I think. Not overly different though. I'm gonna play the Channeler first here. Because I've got the Phoenixes the Phoenix in hand if I want to haste the Goyf next turn. Although I guess I would probably just go second Channeler. Okay, Scalding Tarn, Sacred Foundry, Ragavan. So probably up against Jeskai. So I guess now we do shock, and then we just play second Channeler, Goyf, Bauble. So no to Wraith number 3. Hell yes to Death Shadow, although we won't have Delirium. Do I want to trade a Channeler for a Ragavan? I think the answer is no, but the answer might somehow become yes after they take their turn. I don't know, but I mean, if they exile the Goyf, I will, but I think with the double surveil off the Phoenix, this is probably gonna be better. Where do you think a more healthy spot for interaction is? Wrath Disguise and Consign seem problematic. Yeah, I think Wrath is awfully designed too. I think it's just too efficient, and kind of like Consign keeps a lot out, but it also like it's one of these like we made a bunch of really aggressive one drops. So we'll just make a really aggressive Wrath, and then that's just going to be the format forever. Okay, so do I play Shadow plus Phoenix? Maybe I play FOMO this turn. Get Delirium. I like that. Do you want someone to do free voiceover for gay? We're not interested in exploiting our parasocial relationship for free labor. No. And we're trying to pay people when we work with them. A pretty novel concept. Oh, dude, No More Lies exiling. I keep getting owned by No More Lies every single day. Nor should you, my sweet chatter, offer to do free work without any benefit. Probably wrong to not attack with the Ragavan here. Not the biggest deal. Why is No More Licensing play? They just need some counter magic, and they don't have blue very easily for counter spell. Is the short answer. Yeah, we'll keep another FOMO to refill if they have like a main deck Wrath. Sometimes people do things they want to, not everything's about money. Down with capitalism, rich. I think that's fair, but they offer for like free voice work. Like if I think also if I'm benefiting from my chatter's generosity, like I will always compensate you for your labor if you do work for me. Is another attitude I always have. But you can do stuff for free if you want to, of course. Okay, so they Solitude my Nethergoyf. So I guess we'll leave the Phoenix back to block the Ragavan. I'm in the No More Lies is better than Counter Spore more times than not camp. Well, I think in the Jeskai deck that's probably the case. It pitches to Solitude, it's easier to cast, and then the Exile is relevant sometimes. There sure is a lot of Tron and Titan though, which is like makes it really scary to play a Mana Leak effect. Is it a video game? It's not. It could be. I'm not gonna talk about it. All right, let's bring in the Vexing Baubles and the Nihil Spellbomb and the Graveyard Trespasser. Don't think we need the Sheoldred's Edicts. The Heat covered our bases pretty well. We've got to make 4 cuts after this. Could we possibly want to cut? Maybe I'll go down 2 Shadows and 2 Abigales. I do think Abigail Moonshadow's probably pretty bad in this matchup, and then especially with the Solitudes, just being less on Shadow could make some sense. That was the worst Jeskai hand I think I've ever seen. I mean, they went Ragavan into No More Lies into Solitude. I don't know. It just didn't line up well against our insane Rakdos draw. I guess we'll keep this on the draw. I will also Tron this league. Tough matchup. Got 4 Break the Ice in the sideboard. It's not really getting much better than that without splashing for Consign, I think. They always scam Riddler or Flager me. I guess I've seen worse. Yeah, I've just seen non-functional draws. Like every deck has non-functional draws. Imagine if my Tron opponent didn't top deck 2 agains. Yeah. Also mold to 4 game 2. Certainly a winnable matchup, as all matchups are. Do you think that playing another Channeler this turn is probably going to be wrong? I think it'd be overcommitting into a sideboard Wrath Disguise. So let's surveil. The problem with surveilling is Death Shadow. And if they cast another removal spell here, it does get a little bit weird. All right, so we graveyard that for to be close to Delirium and to grow the Goyf to make it a real threat. Also makes it ungalvanic dischargeable. Beagle with the 46. Thank you. Welcome back. I always hate going after Tron's mana to stop them. Their deck is built around getting mana. If I just have a few little cards to try to slow them down, feels like a losing strategy to me. It's definitely a lot better when you're playing a deck like this, where you, instead of just, you also have like a lot of cheap aggression, and so like a 2-mana Stone Rain, I do think is a lot better in a deck like this than like in a control deck where you just still give them all the time in the world. All right, so they got 4 cards in their hand. Notably, they let the heat go to the graveyard. If they had not done that, they could have banked 2 energy off this Galvanic Discharge, which would have let another discharge be able to kill the Nethergoyf. For whatever that's worth. Maybe that's kind of minor. So now I'm going to attack for 4. Let's just see what happens there. I think I just don't play the other Channeler, so I can heat the Flage without losing a creature. I want Shadow Assumptions to be good versus Tron. It's okay against them, for sure. I almost never recommend playing more than 2 copies, though. So I'm intentionally waiting here. Intentionally waiting. Because maybe if I wait, my opponent will know I have Unholy Heat, and maybe if they know I have Unholy Heat, they'll target me instead of a Goyf. It's pretty minor. But I want them to target me instead of Goyf because of Death Shadow. I don't know if this like ever would ever happen, but they're going to target the Goyf as like a default, so I kind of think you might as well incentivize them to go elsewhere. Now, my opponent has told us, my friend Aspiring Spike, I don't have Wrath Disguise in my hand. I think I'm going to play around a single target removal instead of playing around top deck Wrath. We did get top deck Wrath already once today, so how could it happen twice? I think that they would play the Wrath over Escaping Flage there. At least I would if I was in their position. Cast Felia. Cast Riddler, draw 2. So even if they have a Solitude, they're dead on board if they have Solitude too. So 4-1 this league, losing a game where my opponent top decked 2 Ugins in a row and hold to 4. I think that's going to be kind of a mandatory second league for me here. Abigail Moonshadow was also very good. We beat Leyline Double Scion game 1 because of Abigail Moonshadow. Abigail.